Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to this 5th edition of the CNED Development Dialogues. Our guest today is Dr. Fahmida Khatun, a leading economist from Bangladesh who also runs the Center for Policy Dialogue in Dhaka. Dr. Khatun, a warm welcome. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Dr. Khatun, we from our Center for New Economic Diplomacy at ORF, we place a lot of emphasis on the Sustainable Development Goals. This is an area in which you have done a lot of work. India is, of course, also working to realize these goals. But last week we saw some data coming out of India, which said that because of the concentration of the health authorities on the coronavirus pandemic, our BCG vaccinations have fallen short by almost 1 million. So you can already see some of the secondary impacts of the pandemic manifesting. You've been working in 17 of the perhaps the least developed districts in Bangladesh. How do you see the situation there? How is Bangladesh moving towards the SDGs, particularly with so many of the resources now being diverted towards fighting the pandemic?
Thank you. This is a very pertinent question, actually. So right from the beginning of the launching of the SDGs in 2015, the government of Bangladesh had been very committed to implement, because if you remember that the Bangladesh government had also been very successful in implementing the Millennium Development Goals. So when SDGs came in, the government put similar effort, and then there had been a lot of policy alignments with the various sectors, with various midterm policies. For example, the 7th five-year plan, now the 8th five-year plan. So all these had incorporated the goals, and also the ministries, various ministries, the sectors, as I said. So now the effort of SDGs, I guess that it is way ahead of many countries. And in fact, indeed, it is, because there had been voluntary national reporting. And there also we had been able to show where we have done some progress, as if you remember. So now, when the COVID had outbroken in Bangladesh, it was beginning of March. So like all other countries, there had been disruption in the whole economy. Production had been disrupted, supply chain had been disrupted, international trade had been disrupted. So a crisis which had originated from health issues, now that had spread into economic and then social issues also. So as a result, like many other countries, Bangladesh had also went under lockdown for 2 months. Then when it opened up, gradually it started picking up, but it is a long journey because during those 2 months, economy was totally stalled and people had lost their employment, businesses and everything. So now with the 2 crises, in fact, to my mind, there are 3 crises: health crisis, economic crisis, and humanitarian crisis. So these crises are to be dealt with the government. But as you said, that the health issue now has become a major problem. And if you know, for countries like Bangladesh or similar, like which are developing, where resources are limited, institutional capacities are limited, human resources are limited in terms of skills. So when such crises arise, then you find the loopholes. The limitations become more vivid, more clear, more evident. So that's what has happened in case of Bangladesh also, that the weaknesses of the whole health system is becoming more prominent. Of course, in a regular situation also, I can't really say, even in case of other South Asian countries, that it is perfect, that we are yet to provide improved health services, yet to provide universal health services. Now, this type of crisis is really very difficult to deal with. As you know, that even in the developed countries, even countries in the North America, countries in the Europe, they are also struggling. We see in the United States how the health system is not being able to cope with the massive, cases they have to deal with. So in case of Bangladesh also, this is no different. But thankfully now, as we are now about 5 to 6 months into this COVID crisis, we are now, I think we have achieved some amount of skills in the sense that more experience, that what to do. Initially, we didn't even have masks or PPEs. So now we are getting those, and even some medicines which can be useful, not the vaccine, but for that we'll have to wait. So I think the government, and as well as there are many other organizations, non-government organizations, they have also come forward, like BRAC, which is a huge non-government organization working on health issues across the country. They have also complemented to the government efforts.
Absolutely. And, the other important dimension of the SDGs, of course, is the efforts that Bangladesh has been making, India is making to close the gender gap in labor force participation. There are already challenges of the levels of skill, of levels of education, of sociocultural norms, etc., etc. Bangladesh has actually done much better than the number of other similarly placed countries. But now we see that the future of work itself is beginning to change. I guess there are again these new challenges coming up, that how do countries like Bangladesh, like India, provide the opportunities for women in terms of education and skills to be able to leverage the entire digital economy space that is opening up.
Very right. You have really pointed out the new issues actually. So COVID had, I would say, expedited the technological advancement, what we were foreseeing. In fact, before the arrival of COVID, we are discussing the fourth industrial revolution, artificial intelligence, robotics, which will take away a lot of work which we do. And which types of works which are repetitive, manual, do not need any creativity, so those types of work. And unfortunately, many of those works are done by women, being they are low skilled and all. So in the case of Bangladesh, as you know, that we have a large ready-made garment sector, export-oriented ready-made garment sector, where most of the, majority of the workers are women. Initially, it used to be 80%. Now it has reduced, but still it is no less than 60%. But they are mostly low-skilled workers. Now with technology, this is only an example of one sector, but there will be many other sectors where technology will intrude and take away a lot of work. And with COVID, I think this situation has expedited, as you and I are talking, from different places. So, and we have been working from home for the last couple of months. So this will be the new world of work, which means that physical presence will be, minimized, and human, touch or human intervention will also be minimized. And after, during post-COVID period, many work will be done by the technology. There will be no need for human resources. And as I said, that women being traditionally behind in terms of being trained in technological, adaptation and technologies, and also, in case of accessing science, technology, and engineering, what is called mathematics, what is called STEM. So traditionally, South Asian women are behind in this area. Now, with the technology coming in at a faster pace, this is going to really affect women's activities. However, there will also be opportunities. Opportunities in the sense that those who will really want to be employed gainfully, be engaged gainfully, they can also have opportunity sitting in their own, homes. For example, they can do e-commerce, e-businesses sitting, or they can do consultancy sitting at home from across the world. You may be sitting in Bangladesh working for a company in India or USA. So those types of opportunities will also be there. So therefore, what is needed is that we have to reskill, upskill these women and also men, basically, to prepare for this new world of work, so that the new opportunities, which will also, not only jobs will go away, but new jobs will come. So we really have to prepare for that. Yes.
In fact, you make a very important point about the changing nature of work. But what we are finding in India is, and I'm sure similar things will be happening in Bangladesh as well, that at one level, because of the COVID pandemic, the online education space has really taken off. But on the other hand, it is also exacerbating the social gap, because not everybody has access to a smartphone or a laptop or a tablet that enables them to follow online courses. And we've heard these stories in the Indian media of a poor unskilled worker actually saving money from whichever way he can, so that he can get some kind of a smartphone for his daughter, so that she can continue to pursue the classes. So at a certain level, it does increase that gap between the haves and have-nots in terms of access, and perhaps that is something that you would also find worrying.
Yes, it's very true. So technology is something that whoever owns the technology, that person is most powerful. And what we call the technological divide, that is very risky and very real also. Because now also, before COVID, and also we have seen those who had access to technology, they are more, they can do more, they can do better. Now, the issue you have mentioned regarding education, online education, this is where we are in Bangladesh also, we are struggling. A lot of students, from primary to secondary, they are not being able to attend classes. Only a handful of schools in the urban cities with good internet connections, with access to laptops and computers or smartphone are being able to attend the classes. But majority of the students in the, across Bangladesh, they are not being able to attend the schools and education, which means that what is happening now, the poor families, they are thinking that, because they cannot afford laptop or smartphone or internet connection. So what do? They are sending their boys for work. So because they can't really feed them, and on the other hand, they are getting their daughters married off at a very early age,
right,
which means that child marriage is increasing, and this is also going to risk the maternal health as well, because these young, there will be a lot of young mothers who will suffer health care also. And the achievement of Bangladesh during Millennium Development Goal, during MDGs, was that we had been able to reduce maternal mortality, we had been used to reduce child mortality. So the fear is that we might have some dent in there because of this. So this, you are right now that technology is apprehended to create a divide and create more inequality in terms of access to facilities, access to opportunities through education, through job market as well.
So just to change track a little bit, one of the perhaps the unintended impacts of coronavirus has been on the global supply chains, and suddenly countries are discovering perhaps an over-dependence on China. We've had a meeting earlier this week of the ministers from India, Japan, and Australia talking about building more resilient supply chains. How do you see this development taking place? Does it make a stronger case for greater intra-regional trade in South Asia itself, so that we exploit the complementarities of our own economies even as we globalize?
Yes, rightly said that, yes, COVID has re-emphasized as one thing what we have been discussing, that trade integration within South Asia is so low. Only, we trade only 5% of total trade of what we do. So this is a really abysmally low number. There are so much of potential. This is one, so COVID has shown that how important to have intra-regional trade. Secondly, COVID has also shown that dependence on one single source or a couple of few single sources can be really dangerous, can really disrupt, and then can really create a crisis. So diversification, not only in terms of export products, but diversification also in terms of sourcing, in terms of supply chain. So that is the lesson from COVID. Of course, China is a big player, a large economy. India is a large economy, but there are also, we have other, South Asia, within South Asia, we can do so much of trade. So that potential has to be now tapped into. And I hope that we have now more realization that we can, explore the opportunities which have been created, which were already there, but we can now, give a fresh look into it and take some more action.
Well, Dr. Fahmida, trade, of course, needs connectivity. And one of the problems that we've seen is the infrastructure bottlenecks. But then after a relatively slow start, I think we are finally beginning to make progress. And I was seeing reports last week, I think, of the first shipments from Chittagong port to Agartala using a multimodal transport system. How do you see these coming up? What is the impact going to be in terms of the economies of northeastern India, Bangladesh, the BIMSTEC region?
Yeah, you see, connectivity is always good for any economy. So we have to now, we are living in a world now. Without connectivity, you don't gain much. So we can't live in isolation. So connectivity is very important. The issue is that, being in any region, there will be always political tension, diplomatic tension, but that is a different thing. One thing is that what you are going to achieve. If you are going to have a win-win situation, why not? And as I have seen, if you see the Western countries, how did they progress? Look at their borders, look at their connectivity. So this issue, what has been emphasizing by the government of Bangladesh and many experts in Bangladesh, and we ourselves are also emphasizing that connectivity should be in place. And of course, there is India being the closest neighbors and so much potential. We have to have smooth connectivity for for exchange of goods, which will not only increase our trade, but also it has other other opportunities, along with economic opportunities. Many other opportunities, social opportunities also come along. So I always welcome that, and this is once it has started, I think we can also expedite it. We can use it in a more better way so that we can really have a win-win situation. Bangladesh can gain, of course, and Indian, these parts of India can also benefit from this connectivity.
Dr. Fahmida, before we finish, one final question, and maybe a quick answer from you. Bangladesh is perhaps our largest partner in terms of our development partnership programs, certainly the largest recipient of India's lines of credit. How do you see the development partnership cooperation? How is it viewed? Any thoughts, any suggestions from your side to further increase their effectiveness?
Yeah. Yes, very true. There are a number of lines of credits, but one thing, and of course, Bangladesh is thankful for that, the support and which are coming through these lines of credit. But one thing we have been discussing, I think, even Indian diplomats in Bangladesh, they were also from time to time, they have to answer to various questions for media and all. The problem is that the implementation of this is very slow, in most cases. So what our Indian counterparts, they emphasize that, they tell us that why don't you develop projects very quickly, and then it can be, we can disperse the money. But from, again, from Bangladesh part, that they also say there are bureaucratic delays and all these. Because of that, we can't really expedite the implementation. So there is a problem in implementation. So I think both countries we are developing. Bangladesh is least developed country, going to be developing country. India is a developing country. I think there are, the bureaucratic red tapeism is also there. But if we want to make most of it, we should have more projects quickly developed and submit, and also ask India that why don't you, release the funds as soon as possible. So that is one area that I feel also that implementation, there are scopes for improving the implementation of this. And also, what can be other areas where cooperation can be sought? I feel that in case of education, in case of health, there are a lot of opportunities for mutual collaboration and cooperation, because now we see that COVID has also shown that no country can deal with the crisis by its own. So this is an opportunity for collaboration with India. We are talking about South Asian collaboration, how that can be. So if India can also come forward. And in case of education, I would say, and particularly education in science and technology, because India has some centers of excellence, for example, IITs, there is IIMs. So similar institutes can be established in Bangladesh with the support of India, with collaboration. This is one. And also more Bangladeshi students can go to India, to this center of excellence, and learn and get, more equipped. So that's another area. I would emphasize in these two areas, apart from, the infrastructure and all these big issues, but social infrastructure is also very important. I would emphasize on that.
Absolutely. And I think during his recent visit to Dhaka, the Indian Foreign Secretary has already assured Bangladesh that to the extent that India is going to be one of the major producers of the coronavirus vaccine, Bangladesh would be one of the first recipients to get it. So let me just end on that positive note.
Yeah, that's
Dr.
a very
Fahmida
positive
Khatun.
assurance, actually.
Yes, and Dr. Fahmida Khatun, thank you very much for joining us for the CNED Development Dialogues. And we see you as a friend of India, as a friend of ORF, and we look forward to our very close engagement with you. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. Yeah.